host, Britt Dowd. In this show, our goal is to come alongside you, the lawn and landscape business owner, and bring you value in areas that are often overlooked in the green industry. We focus on leadership, communication, and strive to help you grow as a leader so that you can grow your team and your profits. We do this through interviews with other business owners, people who have won in small business in and out of our industry, as well as documenting episodes within our own company here at Green Again Lawn. That's right, we are in the ring with you every day, taking shots on the chin and swinging back even while up against the ropes. Listen in, turn it up, and we know you'll enjoy this show. Thank you for joining us. Guys, thanks for joining us on another episode of the Lawn Care Leaders Podcast. I am joined by a special guest today, Matt Kerske from Nashville, Tennessee. Matt, why don't you introduce yourself?
Howdy there, Britt. Yeah, appreciate it. Good old warm welcome from Nashville. Awesome. Doing really well today on the beautiful spring day.
Oh yeah. Is it a really warm welcome? I know you guys are always a little hotter than we are out here in Kansas City.
Yeah, I think we're not doing too bad, although this springtime is a little bit cooler than usual, which we like because it tends to kind of extend our springtime buying habits, so we're okay with that.
Oh yeah, cater to those plants a little bit more. So,
right.
So Matt, tell me, what business are you in, and give us a background where you've been, where you are, where you're going. Matt works for Gardens of Babylon Landscapes in Nashville, Tennessee. So give us a breakdown.
That is correct. Yeah, sure. So Gardens of Babylon Landscapes is coming up on their 18th year in business. It is it's a three-part ownership. LLC operates as an LLC. It's run by myself, my brother, and my father. It was this kind of the three-headed dragon that really helped to begin the company almost all 18 years ago. And it originally started out as a retail facility in a small part of East Nashville, and then got an opportunity a couple of years later to move to downtown, right at the Nashville Farmers Market, to about a 3/4 acre facility is what encompasses the retail facility right now. And that was the retail portion for the kind of initial years of our beginning. And then from there, we just got, question after question from customers looking to see if we did landscaping or maintenance services. And my father at the time never loved to say no to any sale. So we pretty much slowly got into the design build market and the maintenance market, and have been doing that, pretty well on for just about all that 18 years.
That's awesome. If you don't mind, I want to interject here. I was reading through some of your guys' stuff and watched your kind of YouTube about video, which super slick, by the way.
Thanks.
My company has to get one of those. It is really, really well done. So kudos to you guys. But it seems like that was one of the pivotal moments in your guys' business when you switched retail locations to that farmer's market. Am I correct?
That is correct. Yeah. Much bigger location, much more centrally located, and much more bigger exposure to the general public who are already shopping there. So it was a big win.
Okay. Awesome. And you guys are actually the first nursery that we've had on the podcast. So I would love for you to dive into that whenever you want, but I want to get into what is that like? What's the retail nursery look like? I love the fact that you guys spun off and went deeper with an existing client base by providing landscape services. So I want to go there, but I would love to get just give our audience, what is it like running a nursery? What's the day-to-day operations? How hard is it starting a nursery from scratch, from the ground up, like you guys have done?
Sure. Yeah, great question, Britt. For us, my father, who's kind of he calls, almost referred to as a serial entrepreneur, he had other businesses before this one, and he'd always just had a love affair. He was always in the industry and trade, but just kind of had a love affair with plants for all his life, and then just really had an opportunity to start to start small, and that was the East Nashville location for a couple years. The rent was cheap, the neighborhood was cute, and it was upcoming.
Yeah.
But it was really too small for a retail operation, and it wasn't really a mistake. It got us into business, and that's so common, I think, in the world of starting out, is start with what you can, and opportunities, open themselves after that. And so we started strictly just as a retail facility, just bootstrapping it as you can bootstrap it, and getting to know the industry as best we could. Had a love affair for customers, love affair for plants, and then you had a great opportunity to move to that larger 3/4 acre facility, and take over another garden center that had been there for a couple years prior to us being there. So we took over an existing customer base. We do lease that space there. We don't own that. It's owned by the city of Nashville. And I was the general manager of the retail facility for roughly about 10 years before I then transitioned over into landscape as a sales manager and chief marketing officer about 5-6 years ago. So kind of helped to have a really amazing team kind of build the retail facility over there. Right now, we're currently around, with seasonal employees, somewhere usually typically around the 20 to 25 employee count. Right there at the farmers market. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's right.
Awesome. How much, I mean, just out of curiosity, let's say one of our listeners wants to start a nursery. I mean, did you guys take on debt? Did you cash flow it? I mean, how much money up front to start a small retail nursery?
Yeah, good question. I think I would say that was the biggest chunk, was starting that real small. I know the rent was $500 a month. It was about a solid 3,000 to 5,000 square foot facility. It was just a whim of an opportunity. And I think between that and the benches were cheap, the awnings and the coverings and an old school register and some shelving was cheap. And, we found some good plant supplier contacts. I want to say, that altogether was probably less than $10,000. That was just, from savings from my father. Yeah. And then from there, moving up to that larger facility, a 3/4 acre, it was much bigger facility. And, you get to really appreciate, and you learn early on how much dollars you actually do need to supply it in inventory. And that's the biggest chunk, along with payroll, obviously, is going to be your biggest expenses, but to really have good capital backing to keep a good inventory stock all year long was a kind of a crucial mistake we made early on. I think to even fund the farmers market location, it was everything from credit cards to a small time. I think it was a $50,000 SBA loan that we approved for at the time. And I think a second mortgage on the house.
Yeah. Wow. And so, I mean, you guys, your family was all in on this. I mean, that's
all in.
That's awesome.
All in.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, if you don't mind, I would love, you kind of brought up the point maybe of how much inventory you need to keep on hand. I'm just personally curious. I mean, what is that like? It's got to be a tough balance, like dirty laundry. You need some going out and some like sitting there. That way, you've got enough room and storage and all of that. What is that like? And then also, what is is the cash flow? Is it crazy? Just like normal lawn care from March, whenever it warms up, through May, and then it drops off? Or explain your guys' cash flows ups and downs.
Yeah, starting off early in the garden center retailing world, you are going to experience some pretty wild cash flow swings. You're probably going to see about 75% of your income get made in about 3 to 4 months. That's not uncommon for the early retailer starting out, because they're beginning a name for themselves. They understand that big buying season is obviously spring, followed up by a little bit in summer, and then some in winter or in fall. And your cash flow is going to start to balance out the more that you can get into non-seasonal items like house plants, like gardening and giftware, like pottery, fountains. I think we even do a really great line of rocks and gemstones and crystals. That's been a big line. You got to get yourself out of this seasonal mentality, because then you're only going to have customers showing up on a seasonal basis. But in a nutshell.
And how have you guys, I mean, because that's branding, right? Like, you guys have to eventually become a destination spot for families in Nashville.
Have to. And I would also, along with, Destination Garden Center and choose retailer, merchandiser incredibly well. The old style.
What does that mean for me? Dumb that down a little bit. That went right over my head.
Yep. So the old style of garden center retailing was switching over to, for decades, we've had the mom and pop style garden center. And I love the mom and pop style. That's, kind of where I drew a lot of my inspiration from. But the industry is changing and effective. You mentioned the word destination gardening, and any business in retail needs to really be known as a destination garden center. Or a destination anything. And you really need to have a key position in your retailer that is really great with displays, with visual merchandising, with artistic product lines, with new and unique product lines, and doing it in a way that really makes the customer want to come visit you, as opposed to a box store or buying something online. There's something inherent in coming down in making yourself feel a little bit like a botanical garden, and really wowing the customer. So that was kind of where we took early on, is really trying to make a destination garden center.
That's awesome. That's really good. All right, man. I'm sorry we've had to go into some minute details right out of the gate, but
no, I'm fine with it.
I'm really interested in it, and it sounds like me, your brother, your dad would all get along really, really well, because you guys just kind of had to bootstrap it, hustle, and kind of sling your way through the first 5 years. It's an uphill grind, isn't it?
Oh man, I don't even, to be completely transparent, I don't even know how really profitable we were in the first 7 to 10 years, because we really didn't have a great handle on profitability, and that was an early mistake that we had to learn the hard way. But bootstrap, man, capital B.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. That is awesome. So you guys moved to the other location.
Yep.
Now, if you don't mind picking up from there, I mean, what went well to put you guys in a position to start to branch out into, the department now that you now run, and why are you guys thriving at this point?
After we moved to the new location in 2005, which is centrally located right downtown at the Nashville Farmers Market, we went through the kind of the darker years of really trying to find our product lines, find our store, find our branding, and find metrics and profitability analysis and all that good stuff that really comes with a strong business. Yeah. But I would say we really started to hit a stride probably around the year, I'm going to say 2012 type, maybe about 9 years after we were founded. We just really had assembled, as best as we could, a really solid team. It was a family-based type effort, since it was my brother and father and I. We really kept that culture going throughout the company. We always had believed in just the basics, treating the customers, as if they were family, never leaving a job site with an unhappy customer, trying to do whatever you could, and really building a good brand name. And then we had a really solid retail staff at that time that were really getting more comfortable with the product lines. We were making a little bit more money to really bring in some unique pieces and more products, and keeping the store stocked year after year, for all 12 months, to really kind of get into that destination garden type feel. And then branding started to get a little bit better. Our marketing started to get a little bit better throughout those years. And then in the last couple of years, we've really dedicated a lot of time and attention to the importance of sales and marketing. And we do most all of that in-house. We use consultants here and there, but we do a lot of the marketing in-house to try and save and stretch our dollar.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you guys do a great job of it. I loved reading through your material, and I kind of just wanted to learn more about it. So good job there. I've got two questions here, and I don't want to forget either of them, so I'm going to say them both at the same time. Number one, didn't know if you would be interested in sharing your current margins on the nursery that you're operating and the landscape side. And number two, this one's personal. I got to know, being in Nashville, Music City, have you had any country music stars, any limelight people come into the nursery?
Yeah, there you go. Maybe. It's first off, starting with the profit margins there on the retail side. Most good retailers in the garden center industry really shoot for that net 10%.
Okay.
At the end of the year, when all expenses are paid, that you really are shooting for that 10%. And it took us a long time to get there. I think we struggled a lot, many years, sometimes even break even, and then getting up into the single digits. And typically, on average, depending on what year we're in, we might see somewhere in that 10 to 15% range.
Yeah.
On retailer, which is finally able to make it there. It took us a while, but we did get there. And then as far as on the landscaping side of things, I would say about the same.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And gosh.
So many to choose from.
So many,
many stars.
It's so hard to even know sometimes because, the one thing I love about Nashville is we don't have, it's really odd. It's like this, small, large, big town that, these people tend to just blend in just like everyday folks. Yeah. And we don't have a big paparazzi culture here. And I think, most stars like it that way, and they get to live a normal life. And, I know I'll say there are plenty that come through, and I couldn't even tell you with certainty how often they do it because I'm on the landscape side of things so much that I couldn't be a good judge to tell you.
Oh man, you're protecting the privacy. You are doing what you just explained the community.
Nashville's Nashville. They're walking
baby.
Around. That's right. You could bump into them at the supermarket or buying a philodendron.
So you wouldn't go all fangirl like I would. You're not hiding behind the hydrangea, like ready to pounce and try to introduce yourself. Hey, will you sign this plant for me type of thing.
And I feel more, I would rather just talk to him like a customer, and normally when you're standing there talking, you just gotta, hold it together as best you can. And the fact that who's standing in front of you, but,
I've got to know, has Taylor Swift been in there? Dolly?
I couldn't even tell you. They would look like some other, beautiful customer that we have on a daily basis.
No, man, you would know if Tay Swift walked in.
I probably would. I probably would.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Now, to anybody who hasn't been to Nashville, do yourself a favor. It is that was a perfect depiction of it. It is the best, like big small town feel, and there's just a lot going on. It's been booming the last few years.
It is, and it's we love it. We pretty much was raised here all my life and have seen it go through so many growth changes, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. It just was just a boom town about 5 years ago, and that is also really is what helped kind of launch our brand a little bit. We had a good name, and then with a little bit of growth in the right communities, your name gets around, and so you always want to make sure that you're leaving a good mark after every job. But the city's great. It handled the 2008, 2009 recession, okay. It wasn't, nothing's resistant, but it's a very diversified economy, across a lot of different industries. And overall, it fared pretty well. It's faring pretty well in this pandemic time. We're doing the best we can as an essential business to continue on going. And, retail pivoted a little bit to an e-commerce store because they had to be shut down from the farmers market perspective for the last month and a half, but landscaping has continued on.
That's awesome. Okay. So you brought up a point that I want to make sure we address. And that's really the whole reason I wanted to do this conversation was our interview with Jeffrey Scott. He had mentioned you guys and how great of a job you're doing at adjusting to the market. You've dealt with a challenge. You've got this problem in front of you, and instead of just sulking in it and saying, oh, woe is me. You guys have found a way to pivot and really thrive after pivoting and maybe even open up a whole new line of revenue that wouldn't have otherwise been there. So if you don't mind, talk about that transition from solely retail to online, and maybe give some practical steps that you guys did and kind of the mindset shift behind it as well.
Yeah, totally. And you bring up, another real quick point I'll reference about really getting our company together. And it was a good part in because of Jeffrey Scott in the peer group that we belong to, with the help that we received from other companies and what it took to finally get us there, and networking with other landscape companies to really kind of help figure out where our issues and our gaps and weaknesses were in our company. So Jeffrey really has helped us out over the last couple of years, and as well as the other businesses. But as far as pivoting, is concerned, we got slapped with, we nearly missed a tornado in early March. That was literally about 300 yards from our garden center when the tornado came through downtown Nashville, and that was the first curveball. We had to close down a week for that, for the damages that we sustained there, and then. Wow.
So you guys did. I mean, everything was blown over, gone, damaged.
Yeah, we didn't have power for several days. Had to sign some sign damage, some light plant damage, display damage. We were just kind of starting to ramp up into stocking and receiving some large shipments, and luckily we had to put out some really valuable materials all on pallets wrapped up when it came on through. And so that was the first whammy of spring, and then about 2 weeks later we received the whole entire Nashville Farmers Market, which is owned by the city of Nashville, started to lock down because of the pandemic. And though some garden centers stayed, around the city stayed open as essential businesses, being within the Nashville Farmers Market on the property, we complied obviously with the orders and shut down. And then pretty much, we still make, I don't know, I want to say close to maybe 50 to 60% of our entire yearly income in the months of March, April, May, and June. So out of 4 months, it was obviously, you can imagine, it's our biggest grossing time of the year. And it was just it's a wild curveball to be thrown. And so luckily at this point, after 18 years, we have an incredible culture of staff over there, our managers and our boots on the ground employee team. Just, after we tried to assess the damage and reset our budgets and projected budgets for 2020, because we were on a path and then all of a sudden completely got torn from it. So after you pick up the pieces and try to develop a budget that you can try to stick to, then you say, well, what can we do with the people that we have and the resources that we have? And luckily, we had just got done switching over to old school registers to a new school POS system about 2 years ago. And so that company's Lightspeed, great company out of Canada in regards to POS. We've had a really good experience with them.
And you said Lightspeed?
Lightspeed, yep. Okay. And we were really looking for a good POS provider. Looked at a lot of different POS providers. This was kind of the best one that stood out to us. We have 4 registers. We have a mobile one, but four register units with Lightspeed, reasonably priced POS system that allowed for e-commerce. They also have an e-commerce platform, and we hadn't taken advantage of the e-com at all. We wanted to do it. We'd been talking about it from owners and management staff for a good solid year. We'd been on garden center tours with the IGC. And seen other companies that were getting into the e-commerce world, and we wanted to do it, but it was just this big mountain to do. And so that was kind of the silver lining that came out of all of this, is when you're shut down, it literally, we first moved to a online Google form that it's a very simple format to place your orders, and we list some inventory there. And then about 2 weeks of that, which is very time consuming, and phone call orders, we took about 2 weeks, I would say, maybe, to pivot to about 500 to 600 products on our e-commerce store, which is at gardensofbabylon.com, and we set up all the products and the description text and photos, and
Wow.
my team just put in some really long hours to try and launch. And by this time, we were late March, early April, which was just our gangbuster season. So it's going well, and I think a little bit we're going to keep that e-com model going. No matter, I think we might be opening up here phase 1 for Nashville here this month. So we'll keep e-com going and maybe look to do nationwide shipping here sometime this year as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. And you did all of that. I mean, you pivoted, switched directions, had all of those background changes in 2 weeks, you said.
Necessity is the mother of all invention, Britt.
Wow. Yeah. That's impressive. That is impressive.
Yep. Thank you.
So if you don't mind now, I would love for you to maybe explain a little more in detail about, how does that change somebody's role now? You've got all these people that are in retail. I'm assuming not much has changed for the people that care for and move around the actual inventory. But what about some of the management and leaders that were in place in the retail store? What does their role now look like?
Yeah, so largely the same. I would say, our plant buyers and merchandise buyers, they're still cranking through the orders to keep up with the e-com sales and also start to get ready for our reopening here shortly and get the store back together again. The marketing team really resides over at retail, but they also do marketing for the whole company in general. We pretty much tried to throw the fuel on the fire with those positions to really ramp up our messaging and our brand narrative during this time of pandemic to really try to capture more market share. So they've been just continuing on status quo and if not a little bit with a little bit more hitch in the giddy up.
Yeah.
And everybody from the normal everyday customer service staff, they've been pulling the orders as best they can and receiving orders. And I think we definitely had to lay off some people. And then as we're kind of retooling and the e-commerce is picking up and we're getting ready for phase 1 opening of Nashville, we're pretty much almost get back to full capacity, we hope.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Well, thank you for kind of clarifying that. And I think so it seems like you guys are rolling and you've now pivoted. I would love now to kind of switch gears and have you talk about not only your current position as Chief of Marketing and Landscape Sales Manager, but I would love to know, because that's vertical integration, right? Like you've now infused a different service and are starting to funnel leads to a new department. So you've done this vertical integration part, and you guys have got design build, you've got maintenance, irrigation, lighting. Explain to me, I would love to know, like, what are the most profitable out of those? And is the nursery large enough to where that has become a really, really big revenue driver for you guys?
Yeah, great question, Britt. Starting out for any of the listeners that just run a maybe just landscape only company, if they don't have the ability to adapt and develop a retail department in their company, that might be too large of an undertaking. I would strongly suggest trying to find a garden center in your area where you could try and partner with and develop some sort of an in-store display of your company and try to develop some sort of a partnership with the owner of that garden center to develop some sort of a referral program to where any leads that get generated out of that garden center can get turned into a landscape sale or maintenance sale, and allow that percentage to get kicked back to that garden center and try to develop a partnership in that way, because you're both winning.
Yeah. That was my next question. What is the value for the nursery?
It's huge.
Is it's a kickback in the percentage? It's the value add to the client, like just strictly having a referral. What is because because that's my thing. I've always thought that in my mind, like, oh, I should partner with a nursery. But then right about the time I muster up the courage to go in there and talk to them, I'm trying to figure out how is this a win-win? Because it seems like I'm just saying, hey, feed me some leads. But what is the win for the nursery?
You could pay them as a percentage of those gross sales for every job that you received. So if it was a $10,000 job from a lead that you got, and you agreed to some sort of a term between, I don't know, anywhere between 1% to 5%, then they walk away with a couple $100 in their pocket just from one sale, and they didn't have to do anything other than maybe you created and maintained a really amazing outdoor kitchen display that their staff get to use for cookout hot dog Fridays, or or you can use your little area for speakers podium if they want to do in-store workshops, and you can create a nice patio and planting area. Maybe they could use your place for 10, 20 person sitting area for outdoor classroom for their workshops, as a possibility. But it's definitely probably more or less some sort of a financial reward back to the garden center. And if they have enough space and they're not using it, then, why wouldn't they kind of tend to partner with somebody in the community? But, you definitely have to hold your end of the bargain up and treat customers with a good report, just good customer service from the landscaping side of things to keep the partnership, on the up and up. But it's been huge. The whole combination for us has really been huge. It started out kind of small, but as the garden center really took shape and really started becoming a destination in the I would say the state, if not the Southeast, because of the great people that we have, it really fed a ton of leads. I want to say it's one of our largest lead channels. When I track probably about 20 to 25 lead channels of every single job or all of our jobs and customers that come to us. I have to know where each one of them comes from, to help with marketing. But I would say a solid 25, 30% is just knowing about us from the store in general, and having that physical presence 12 months a year. It's really large.
Wow, that's huge. I mean, so a quarter to almost a third of your business on the landscape design build side comes from your retail location.
I would say that's, give or take, pretty solid in any given year.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Because the customers know that they can trust you, because they, you have a face. You have a 12-month presence at all times. You're very, you're accountable, you're trustworthy, and if they have a good experience and at your store and they see good associates and clean facilities and well-designed areas, they're going to think that reflects just as well on your landscape side.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I guess I kind of want to ask this question now too. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here, bud.
That's all right. You talked about the divisions and whatnot, a little bit about the landscaping side of things. I don't know if you want to dive into that, just get a picture of that, or go somewhere else.
No, I would love to do that. Oh yeah, I know what it was. It was about the maintenance side. Do you guys do actual tree and shrub care, like soil injection, fertilizer, spraying, insect and disease prevention on the shrubs that you're selling at your retail location?
So it's on the maintenance side of things. We are all encompassing. We're design build, two different offices too, and that's the big thing. About 3 miles away is where our landscape facility is. We operate on about an acre to an acre and a half, right outside the city, pretty much an urban location. So, but design build, we do maintenance, we do mowing, bed maintenance, that sort of thing. We do pest control. If clients of ours are having issues with pests, we will treat naturally. That's the one thing, flagship of our company, is we are an all natural company. We have been since the start. We don't apply any synthetic fertilizers. Our store sells a huge host of organic fertilizers, organic seeds. We haven't yet had to transition over to the regular spraying of Roundup, that sort of thing. But we will treat as best we can with organic measures And most decent pests are in the garden in the plant world are pretty much taken down, but we don't get a ton. Doesn't make up a huge part of our business. Maybe just some issues for some of our for some of our maintenance accounts. But I would say maintenance wise, all told, I think as the company, we're about 25% of our sales are generated from retail, and about 75% of our company is geared towards landscaping. So it's much larger department over retail. And
hey, wanted to pause here and give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Jobber. They have been with us from the get-go on this podcast and have always supported us, have always helped our business, Green Again Lawn. What they do is they make you more professional. They streamline the invoice, quoting, collections, client entry process for you. Give them a shout. www.getjobber.com, and you can do /Britt-Dowd. That's BRITT-DOWD, and you can find a slick discount from the Lawn Care Leaders podcast. So head over there. Thanks, Jobber, for supporting us. We love you guys. Now back to the show.
I would say maintenance probably makes up, God, I have to run the numbers again, but I want to say somewhere around about 20% of our landscaping department is made up of our contracts, and the rest, about 80%, is design build, and that's a little too lopsided for us. In the last 12 months, we've really been trying to work with the peer group to try and get this back. Our optimal goal would be a 50-50 mix. I personally don't like being too top heavy with design build. But the one benefit is we do have a retail nursery, and we do jobs from $1,000 way past $100,000. Yeah. We haven't cornered ourselves into just large builds. Some landscape companies have, and we've just started out with landscapers from the roots, and it's real hard to even it's been really hard to try to turn down even $1,500 work for the years what we've grown. And I'm glad we didn't do that. We didn't pigeon ourselves into just big style projects, because if we were to get hit hard there, it would really hurt. But luckily right now our design build division is doing really well.
And so tell our listeners, I think I know where you're tracking with it, but I mean, do you feel like you're vulnerable with the design build, or what is your guys' reasoning behind trying to level out the mix back to 50% maintenance, 50% design build?
That's kind of been the lore in our industry from what we've heard. We've always kind of gathered that, you want to be, for two main reasons. One, you're a little bit more recession resistant. If you have these contracts in hand, you can get loans off of them a lot easier from banks and raising capital because you have these contracts. You're more recession resistant. And if you ever want to try to sell your company, you're more valuable if you have more maintenance contracts than design build. That might be changing a little bit. And, from what we've learned with Jeffrey, it really does all come down to how net profitable you are as a company, is really what, buyers are looking for. But we're not really interested in selling right now or anything like that. But as far as recession resistant goes, you want to say the grass always keeps growing, and, you're kind of guaranteed a job if you can at least balance out your service mix a little bit more than what you could be doing. The optimal, the optimal range. I've heard some companies in our region are at that 50-50 mark. I would like to make inroads this year to try to be closer to 70-30. But at the end of the day, I don't know how margins are for you in the Kansas market, but as far as maintenance margins are sometimes can get really razor thin when you're doing too much bidding and you're not watching your numbers. You ride a fine line there with not being really that profitable with winning these contracts, and so you really have to watch it really closely. But ultimately we want to balance ourselves out to be a little safer in whatever economic condition.
No, that's good. And so what's your outlook with all of it over the next 5-10 years? I mean, are you guys, you're obviously, every company's striving to be more profitable. You kind of mentioned, not necessarily preparing for a buyout, but it's nice to have a healthy company that people are attracted to, and that profit margin percentage, whatever it may be, is alluring enough to where it's enticing buyers. What does that look like for you guys over the next 5 years? How do you have a top line revenue goal that you're going to try to hit with a new? Sounds like you're at about 10%. What's that next goal for your company? I mean, because you're a pretty large organization as well. I mean, most of our listeners, it's easy for them to go from 10% margins to 20%, or double their client base when they have 80, go to 160. But what's that look like for you guys?
Yeah, overall, we're a company of about, I would say, 65 to 70 employees as a whole. So retail is 20, 25, landscaping is the rest. One day I would love to get to the $10 million top line sales mark. And I don't know if we'll ever look at selling the company. We maybe never say never, but at least in the next 3 to 5 years, the owners are really more vested in the idea of developing a profit sharing program within the company. To really reward a lot of our key players and a lot of our staff who choose to stay with us for the long term, and trying to understand more about what a program like that would look like within our organization. We read the book Great Game of Business a couple of years ago within the peer group by Jack Stack, and really opened our eyes up to what it looks like to develop a really healthy, strong company where you have, you turn employees into more owner mindset type individuals, and where everybody's really watching all the nooks and crannies of to make your business healthy. They should be rewarded for it, and we're just trying to analyze, what sort of a profit sharing program that would work with us.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you've talked about it a few times now. I mean, it seems like you guys have a really healthy culture. It seems like both on the retail and maintenance and design build side that everyone cares. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing from you. Like, they care, they're passionate about what they're doing. Is there anything practically that you can speak to or say, hey, we're doing this really well. If you can implement this, you're going to have a better culture? Because to me, kind of the big picture, what I'm hearing is your team is healthy, and that's a big pain point for a lot of companies in the green industry.
Yeah, it's funny. When we had a lot of people talking about it, it's really hard to find employees. We can't find anybody, and it was really strange when we got to the peer group. We heard this as a mantra almost. We'd never really had that hard time of keeping employees or doing well with employees. And it really started to dawn on Marcus and I after we got out of the wreckage, which was just us leading the company by ourselves. We kind of call those the dark ages, and we started stepping out and talking to other business owners after the 10 or 11 year mark, which was way too long. Would have gotten to a peer group way earlier in my initial start of business. It would have saved me, I don't know, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, probably hundreds, if not millions. I don't know. But learning how to create a really sound culture I wasn't going to say it was easy for us, but it really does start from the top on down. I can't say that I can speak to one thing in particular of what we did outside of just, the owners of these companies. And I'm speaking even to myself, because this was just, we came out of a house painting industry. My father was a house painter, and carpenter and craftsman. We came out of the trades, and, to have that type of mentality and start this next company and work literally every day, day by day, hour after hour next to all of our employees, and not asking, anybody to do anything I would never, or haven't done in my years, and them seeing that and just seeing how we put in integrity and accountability, inspiration, in the customer first, you tend to weed out the bad apples fairly quickly. And as long as you can get a good right-hand person right from the very beginning, and pay that person well and cultivate them into a leadership role with the organization, and praise and support, acknowledge and hold that right-hand person accountable, then you can build onto that next person and the next person. There's several leadership books that I've definitely read over the course of my life, and really try to do some really introspective work in personal development. And I think every business owner gets can get a big dose of personal development if they're on the right track and really look at themselves in the mirror. And because leadership does start from the top on down, and it does take that right person right from the very beginning to kind of lay the bricks in the foundation. And it's a nuanced thing. Culture is really just such a nuanced characteristic of a company. And, outside of, if you don't have it, then maybe definitely working with, some kind of a consultant that could come in and take a survey or some sort of assessment survey, with some of your staff members, and to really get some key feedback without you having to sit there and listen to them. But it would be somewhat anonymous, and having a third party to kind of go in there and learn what is it, what are the issues, what are the problems, and and for the owners to meet that head on and sit in front of the staff, and they have to take full responsibility for everything in the organization. So if there are weaknesses or problems in the culture, having an owner speak to that, learn that right from the very beginning, and be honest and transparent and vulnerable. The vulnerability is such key.
That's something everyone can implement. I mean, if you're leading anyone to get a survey or anonymous feedback, we did it for the first time ever, and kind of like you, we waited too long. But at the end of last year, we did an anonymous survey, and so you get really good, pure, honest feedback, and you kind of have. I mean, you've got to swallow the pills that they give you, because
absolutely.
Sometimes as leaders we can think, hey, this is our message, but when you really kind of ask the other person, hey, how did that come across, or what are you feeling? That's when you know how it was communicated, because we can communicate it one way, but they're internalizing or living in the culture a different way. Yep. So that's really good, and a good reminder for us smaller companies. Like, hey, no matter who you're leading, you need to get honest feedback so that you can kind of make moves to better the overall team. I love that.
Yeah, great job for doing that. That's hard to get that kind of criticism.
Yeah. It's really good insight, and I'm going to be doing it again. And I urge our listeners to do that again. I know we're closing in here towards the end of this chat. I feel like we've touched on a lot of really, really good topics, and you've given us a framework for what it's like to start a nursery and build off of that. And now, you're more profitable in a different segment of the industry than you started, which I think is really unique. Is there anything here towards the end of the show that you would like to add or speak to within your company? May be it leadership advice, communication, or running a nursery. Whatever is on your heart or mind.
Something that's come across for us that I would, since I'm so steeped in marketing and sales so often, I would say anybody starting out or in the first couple of years of business, or heck, I don't care if you're 20 years in business, I would, part of one of the books that we had to read in the peer group recently was a book called Story Brand, and it was written by a gentleman who lives in Nashville named Donald Miller. Great message when it comes to really unifying your company's message. And wish we would have done, this wasn't even around when we started, but it's never too late to develop a really unified message of your brand, of your company's narrative. And so you can use this collateral in your website, on flyers, in your sales presentations, in your proposals, anywhere where you interact with a customer. Yeah. It's really such crucial, and we're kind of in the middle of work right now, and we'll be launching it into our new website here when it launches here in about 30 days, and retooling our brand messaging to just be really short, sweet, and what we're about, and that helps drop all the snowballs in all the right directions every day in, day out, every time you have a customer interaction, because you want to make sure that that's being heard and you're conveying that message very quickly. So I don't know. That's what is part of my mind
really
right
good.
now.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I have heard of that and haven't read it yet. I actually will probably download that on Audible and listen to it. A kind of a good reminder. I see two sides to that as well. There's the client side and the team side. And as you tell your story, your team needs to know, hey, here's where we've been. This is where we're going. This is our mission, and they need to attach themselves somehow to that story so that you can all row the boat in the same direction. And for the clients, one thing that we're realizing is, everything, you have to create a story for everything, whether it be sales, whether it be marketing, because people need different reasons to associate with you. Even when we, all the way down to our print materials, when we put our about, what are we about? We talk about our faith. We talk about where we went to school. We talk about where we live. And just, it's all building a story, because sometimes it's hard for people to, I guess I shouldn't say hard. You just reach more people like you when you build a story rather than just tell what you do. Because when you just tell what you do, you're simply seeing if somebody has an immediate need. If they don't have that immediate need, they're not going to attach to your story. And so I love that.
Yep.
I think that's really
Absolutely.
good. I think that's really good.
Yeah, great book. I definitely highly recommend it to any company out there, no matter in our industry or not. But it's a fantastic way to position yourself as the guide and your customer as the hero, because our customers are living their own journey, and they are looking for help along the way, and to act, and also staff in your company, positioning yourself as the mentor or the guide, and your customers are the heroes of their own story. So how do you cultivate that vision? How do you help them realize that within your own company, and making them feel, acknowledged, supported, and also held accountable on your company's journey?
That's great. That's good stuff. Well, Matt, I want to wrap up here with a couple different things. Number one, who do you know that our listeners should know? This is kind of what I extracted from Jeff organically, but who do you know in your sphere of influence, or maybe a competitor or somebody that you network with in your peer group that our audience needs to hear from?
From a business or consultant standpoint?
Yeah, just kind of like this, a conversation about business leadership. Our goal is to bring value to other small business owners. Most of our listeners they're in the trenches. They're running a small business, be it themselves or for crews, but we're just trying to connect them to stories like yours and help them gain some insight and wisdom from it.
Yeah, I would say, Jeffrey Scott has been a key asset to our growth in his peer group consulting. I really love what the Harvester Group is putting out with Steve and Ed LaFlamme. I think I got that right. Ed LaFlamme and Bill Armin, I think, is the Harvester Group. They put out a great series, great educational videos to learn from. A lot of their videos and material are free, and I think they do offer some consulting and peer group services as well. Really great company there, and their account managers and design build consultants. Really, really good resource there. Of course, everything for the GIE Expo in Louisville, Kentucky, and the NALP. Great organization. And who else to know in the industry is, get some friends. I would say get to know a couple other business owners outside of your region, so that you can escape this veil of competition and really get into some. And that's the tough part. You got to find people that are willing to have, open conversations with you about their business, and they have the time to do that. You can grow mutually, or it's easiest probably to do through a peer group. But that then and there, and anything through the IGC tour, the IGC show in Chicago, fantastic trade show that gets put on every year, and then the garden center tours. But just going to garden centers, getting ideas. trying to figure out how you can implement them in a better way, because I'm a big believer in taking good ideas and making them better as opposed to just making up new stuff all the time, and just getting inspiration, never stopping.
That's good. Yeah, don't reinvent the wheel. Just make it better, make it more efficient. I love that.
That's right.
Well, Matt Kerske with Gardens of Babylon, it has been a pleasure. You guys can find their website, gardensofbabylon.com, out of the Music City, Nashville. Hey, Matt, I will be actually visiting my brother and sister-in-law here in a few weeks. Would love to catch up, introduce myself. I won't waste your time, but just put a face with a name and visit your guys' shop in person. That'd be awesome. Love to
meet with you, Britt.
Cool, Matt. Hey, I appreciate your time, and I know our audience is going to get a lot of value out of this.
I hope so.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
All right. Take care.
All right, guys, I want to take a moment here from our show and thank our sponsors, Intentional Growth Advisors. Have you ever thought of buying out a competitor or maybe selling your own business? I know of so many companies that either hand off their book of business for little to no money or possibly even leave money on the table. I also know of companies who jumped into a buyout situation without doing their due diligence. I actually can count 5 on one hand really quickly that did that. Intentional Growth Advisors can help with all of that. They also exist to help small businesses in the green industry. They offer one-on-one coaching, virtual CFO services, tax preparation, monthly consulting services to help you grow as a leader, implement new systems, and even give new data to help maximize profits. I know me personally, when I have the right data in front of me, I've been able to make good decisions, especially this year. Having good data helped me sleep at night, even knowing that we were still going to be okay, even amidst all that's going on around us. Having real data in front of me, knowing that, hey, if I make a few minor adjustments, we'll even thrive this year. So let Intentional Growth Advisors come alongside you, be that business coach, be that mentor, and help you grow and maximize your profits. Again, these guys they specialize to the green industry. And again, it's tax preparation, it's high-level CFO work, it's implementing systems, it's hands-on, one-on-one coaching. If you would like to reach out to them, they have an email, intentionalgrowthadvisors@gmail.com, or you can go ahead and click on the show notes and email them right from there, or you can DM us at Lawn Care Leaders Podcast on Instagram, or you can find us on Facebook and DM us there. Just reach out. Maybe in the notes put Intentional Growth Advisors, and we'll reach back out to you and link you up with the right contact. But these guys are great. They know what they're doing, and they're here to help and serve you and your business.